Welcome to another episode of The Apocalyptic, the new Dad Rock.
Oh no. Is it that time again?
Yes, it is, Keith. It's time. It's been almost 20 episodes, but it's now time for some metal.
Okay. Well, if those are the rules.
Metal rules!
Oh no. I'm gonna so regret this.
No, seriously, we did our last metal episode, Beyond the Big Four. Episode 19. That was 20 episodes ago, almost.
I do know who the big four are now. Metallica, Megadeth, oh crap, Slayer, and Exodus. No, it's not Exodus. That's the fifth one. Sorry. That would be the big five if there were a big five. It was Anthrax. Anthrax is the big four. Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax are the big four. And the only time I ever might have actually listened to a bunch of this was with Chris back in 17, 18, so it's probably the late 80s when it came out. I remember when he first had a CD player, he certainly had the Slayer album, one out. Certainly had a couple Metallica albums, certainly. He's probably had an Exodus one, but that doesn't matter today.
Exodus is not in this countdown. So you hit it on the head, the late 80s. That's when the big four of thrash were in their heyday. We went out and we tried to compile a list and came up with the top 10, and you're going to find out a lot of these top 10 are from that era. All four of these bands, up until very recently, have remained active. Slayer retired in the end of 2019. And then, as you see, the whole world shut down because there was no more Slayer.
Yeah,
they were holding back the evil in the world. Slayer was taking that focus. And that went away, and then COVID was able to sneak in behind it. In that void.
Really? I thought it was going to be Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, because he was had these songs like The Conjuring that were about witchcraft.
Well, The Conjuring, he won't even play in concert, and that's on an album that is definitely in the top 10.
Wait, one thing about the methodology. When he says we compiled it, he means him and his friends and other greats from the internet. How did you come up with this list? They have 47 albums between the four of them?
You're the one that came up with that number, but I was going for their studio albums. So like the 598 EP in Metallica doesn't count.
Yeah, no live albums.
Live Undead does not count. Yeah. Okay. That kind of stuff. Speaking of live albums, check out last week's episode.
So the way I prepped for this episode, where I know nothing about it, is I went to YouTube and I looked up your exact question: what are the best albums from the top four?
The big four.
And yeah, whatever. They're the top 10 of the big four, and there were more than two people who did this already. So I listened to the top 10 albums. I'll tell you later, but I actually kind of like Megadeth right now, and I always like Metallica, and I dig Slayer, Anthrax, whatever.
I know a lot of listeners that probably aren't that into metal. Like you said, Metallica has kind of become hard rock. Mm-hmm. When Metallica was coming out 83, 84, 85, 86, nothing sounded like that. I mean, other bands did sound like that, but they took it up a notch and really sped it up. Speed metal it was called speed metal before it was called thrash metal. They were just blistering and technical and everything about it. So that was really harsh. But you look at Metallica over the last 25, 30 years, they're like a hard rock band. They're very mainstream. They're one of the biggest, most popular bands in the world. Megadeth, like you said, they have a ton of poppy songs, especially after, into the early 90s on Countdown to Extinction and Euthanasia. They had a lot of almost mainstream hard rock songs that, To Le Monde, there are plenty of songs like that. Anthrax, they're more fun. They're goofy. They almost invented the rap rock crossover with Bring the Noise and I'm the Man.
Almost. Yeah, the Anthrax is the one that it's just not happening for me. Is there an Anthrax in your top 10? Just tell me now. We don't have to go into details quite yet, but I just have to know. Does an Anthrax album even make the top 10?
Anthrax makes the top 10, but you raise a good point. So you asked about the methodology before. I got 20 separate lists from friends of friends, and some internet people that I don't really know, but are on a Iron Maiden message board.
wait, hold on. I like that your selection process of strangers on the internet is from the Iron Maiden board. And Iron Maiden was one of the inspirational bands for these other bands.
For all four of them, absolutely. Megadeth toured with them the most. And one of the things that was interesting that I found, Megadeth was much more popular amongst those respondents. Again, I don't know anything about these people other than they're on the Iron Maiden message board and answered my question within 48 hours. That's cool. And the other 10 I got from friends and a couple friend of friends. So
I don't even understand how you could get that many. Like, I could have reached out to Chris, but I didn't. And then I asked Matt, my bassist, and he said all top 10 are Slayer.
I had a couple responses like it would all be Metallica and Slayer, or it would all be unbiased one way or the other, I can't stand Anthrax. And so that's finally, belatedly, I'm getting to my point that Anthrax was clearly the least popular of the bands.
So, Steve, what are the top 10 albums by the big four of thrash metal?
Coming in at number 10, And Justice for All by Metallica. This was the big breakthrough. The song won on MTV. Everyone knew that song. That's when metal crossed over into the mainstream, right there. My own list, I would not have it in the top 10, maybe 14 or 15, something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but number 10, Justice for All, definitely made the list. Harvester of Sorrow, Blackened, the one that they ripped off of The Wizard of Oz.
They had one.
They had one. That's all you need. Dyer's
that was the
Eve.
MTV song. That's the song that must have...
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that song.
Everyone loves that song.
Dude, and yeah, okay. I get it.
So that was good enough to get them at number 10. Number 9, also not on my personal list, also by Metallica, Kill 'Em All.
Oh, wow, that's higher than the scores I saw, because that's their first album that's even like...
This right here is probably my friend's influence. This appeared on more of my friends list.
Are your friends a little older than you?
They're all in, that mid to late 40s. There's a couple early 50s in there.
No, I only asked because that is the first album by that group, right? Kill 'Em All.
It is, 1983. Hit the Lights.
So,
The Four Horsemen. A lot of it written and played by Dave Mustaine.
Who becomes Megadeth.
Right. Dave Mustaine was the original lead guitarist of Metallica, wrote a number of their songs, including The Four Horsemen, which his version is called Mechanics. But Kill 'Em All, in at number 9. Speaking of Dave Mustaine in Metallica, number 8, Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? That bass line, MTV News used it. Peace Sells. I love this album. You were mentioning it before about Dave Mustaine. One of his songs, The Conjuring, he won't even play anymore because it's...
about witchcraft.
Yeah, it's about witchcraft, but it's like steps in casting a spell, and he truly believed that he was like launching evil into the world.
What's up with the naming of his album? Killing is my business, and business is good. Peace sells, but who's buying? Like, it sounds just like my bassist Matt. Like, so far, so good. So what? Like, what's going on?
Well, Metallica, our number 10 entry, ... and Justice for All. So it was a very common theme amongst Megadeth and Metallica, who, for those of you joining us now, how would you be anyway? Number 10, Justice for All. Number 9, Kill 'Em All. Number 8, Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? Number 7, our first entry by Slayer on the list. Woo! South of Heaven.
It's the album after the big album, before the other album. It's the album where they actually slowed it down a little.
South of Heaven, you're right, kind of slowed it down, but that was compared to Rain and Blood. Really good album. I went back, over the last couple of weeks and listened to all of these albums, and that one, it did rate high enough for me. I got it in at number 10 on my list. So we've been talking about this list of, people that I sort of know. My own list, I had South of Heaven here at number 10. At 9, I had For All Kings by Anthrax. All of these 4 bands came back. They never really went away, but in the second half of the 2000s, all of these bands came back hard. I mean, Megadeth had a couple of really interesting albums. I really liked Dystopia. Anthrax came back with Worship Music. Joey Belladonna rejoined the band and got them really excited again. So Worship Music came out, and then this album came out, For All Kings. If you listen, every single track is great, and that's what really informed my top 10 list. Was every track had to be great, because there are so many really good albums out there.
Wasn't there a Big Four tour that happened in the late 2010s or whatever?
Yeah, and that's what, when the name became popular, that's when Adam Pock was on Big Brother, the heavy metal teddy bear. That's when Joey Belladonna rejoined Anthrax, and we were up to
7, I thought.
Well, we were number 7 with South of Heaven.
Yeah.
Number 7, South of Heaven. And then we were going down my list. I had South of Heaven at 10, For All Kings by Anthrax. The only mention by anyone on either my list or the group's top 10 list that came out after 1991, For All Kings. At number 8, I had Rust in Peace by Megadeth. I mean, the consensus was number 8 was Peace Sells, but Who's Buying? I actually had them flipped. I like Peace Sells better than Rust in Peace. So I had it at 8. At 6, this is where I differed from the list. I said before, Injustice for All and Kill 'Em All at 9 and 10 were not on my list.
Yeah.
I For All Kings at 9 was one of them. The other one here at number 7, Spreading the Disease by Anthrax. No one else had it there. It got a few votes. I think it would have come in, maybe 12th or 13th, something like that.
You really like Anthrax?
I'm not a huge Anthrax fan. I definitely think they're the least of the big four. I mean, I like them better than I like Metallica now because I feel like Metallica's gone and become kind of a hard rock, kind of in a different angle.
Country band in your world. Yeah, totally.
I mean, I liked Overkill and Testament better than Anthrax back in the day. But Spreading the Disease, that was one of the early albums. That came out in 85, and Medusa and AIR and Armed and Dangerous. It had so many great songs. And like I said, the consistency through the album and no bad songs. That's what made the list for me.
I like your album wholeness score.
Well, speaking of album wholeness, number 6, going back to the main list.
Yeah.
Among the Living by Anthrax. And this is another place where my friends definitely skewed it more versus the Iron Maiden crowd.
Yeah. In my fake list that I'm not in charge of making, this was number 10. Like, based on my research, based on everything I've read, based on other people's lists, and I might actually just be ripping that off someone's list, this was the highest or best Anthrax album, and it usually was no higher than 10 on any list.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting for me in my research that I found, this album did not make a lot of lists. Like I said, a lot of people seem to have a bias against Anthrax. It didn't get any number 1 votes, but the votes that it got 1, 2, 3, 4 top 3 votes, including myself. I had it as number 2. I mean, I love this album.
What album are we talking about right now?
Anthrax Among the Living. It came in the consensus number 6. Right. I had it at number 2. Every song here is great. Well, do you remember, like, in high school, did you have, like, Regents practice tests and they came in, like, a little green booklet?
Yeah, totally.
My math one in, like, 9th grade or 10th grade, whatever it was, every blank page, instead of doing math problems and things to figure out, I had the lyrics to Anthrax Among the Living, every single song, every single lyric on there.
Okay, so what are the lyrics about? Like, how old are you? Are you listening to this when it came out?
I was absolutely anticipating this because I knew them at Spreading the Disease. This was next.
Okay.
And when you're anticipating an album and it's this good,
so exciting.
A couple of the songs are inspired by Stephen King stories. There's a song, if looking back now, it's about Indians and, Joey Belladonna, who claimed to have Native American ancestry, would come out in a headdress in the song when they played it live. But honestly, the whole song is really about seeing the world through other people's eyes. So looking back, it's quite clumsy, but the message stands, have some empathy and look at the world through other people's eyes. And that was a lot of their songs. Even Caught in a Mosh, as silly as the lyrics are, Evil Nickafussen, which is Nice Fucking Life backwards. I mean, the message is like, have a credo, be true to yourself. And, it had a good message and it thrashed. I mean, it was a really fun album.
You told the top. Okay. So we've done 10 to 6.
Okay.
What's number 5?
Number 5, Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer. 1990. This song, I love this album. I had it at number 3. Again, top to bottom, every song is great. Blood Red, Temptation. They're like the 7th and 8th best songs on the album, but they're still great.
Is this the highest rated Slayer album, or is there one more after this?
Oh, come on. You know the answer to that. Answer to that. All right. So Seasons in the Abyss, number 5. Number 4, Megadeth, Rust in Peace. Earlier, I said I like Peace Sells better, but the consensus is Rust in Peace. This one got 2 number 1 votes out of the 20 people.
Wow, that's a lot. 10%.
Coming in at number 3, which...
Wait, hold on. I want to go back to Rust in Peace for a second. I can't believe the name of that's a heavy metal album. It seems like such a nerd joke. And nerds are cool, by the way, because it's, the future. But, like, Rust in Peace, like, it doesn't sound heavy to me. I mean, Rust is not heavy. It's metal. Am I just way off? Maybe that's why I didn't get any of this shit.
I think that's why you didn't get any of this shit. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the album about? What's Rust in Peace about? Because all his albums, like, have... When I read the titles, it's like reading, like, chapters of a book. Like, there's definitely a story telling.
He all has political overtones. It's the end of the Cold War era. Hangar 18 is about the aliens found at Area 51 in Hangar 18. Holy Wars, The Punishment Due, possibly their most popular song, is about nuclear warfare. Your typical late 80s, early 90s heavy metal subjects. Coming in at number 4, that was Megadeth's top showing. I had at number 4 a different album, but we'll get to that in a minute.
There's probably Anthrax.
Yeah, exactly. Coming in at number 3, this is only one of 2 albums that was on every single list. Ride the Lightning by Metallica. This only got 1 top vote.
You mean top 1 vote?
Yeah, out of the 20 people, this got a number. It was one person's favorite album.
But it was like on everyone's list, though.
Yeah, everyone's list. Creeping Death, Fade to Black, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fight Fire with Fire, which I sing like Jingle Bells, dashing through the snow. Anyway, so the title track, Ride the Lightning, we go back to Dave Mustaine. Just the title track, Ride the Lightning. I've always known it's been written by Dave Mustaine, but you listen to it and you're like, oh my God, this is a Megadeth song. It's like solo after solo. It's totally structured like a Mustaine song. But anyway, Ride the Lightning. I love it. I had a little further higher on the list, maybe number 6 or so. But all-time classic. The Only Thing, Escape, Trapped Under Ice, side B. It's like half an album to me. And number 2, speaking of half an album, this album, when it came out on cassette, this album's under 30 minutes, the whole thing. So on cassette, the whole album is side 1. You flip it over side 2, it's the whole album again. Of course, it's Slayer, Rain in Blood.
What? You just said it's a tape with this whole album on both sides.
Yeah.
That's fucking brilliant. Hey, first off, no one has cassettes now, so they don't even understand that. But that is awesome. No rewinding, no forwarding, no way to skip to halfway through the album. I mean, you could, I guess, but not easily.
And it's just bookended by 2 of the most classic metal songs, Angel of Death and, of course, Raining Blood, which is, just about the most fun song ever.
Okay, Megadeth was the biggest surprise for me in the fact that I'm like, okay, I get this. I like this. Like, okay, cool. But Slayer, I was like, man, I feel it.
And I think that was reflected in the voting. So Rain in Blood got 5 number 1 votes, but Rain in Blood was actually not on a number of people's lists because it's just not their style. I mean, their guitar solos are chaotic. They're off-key. Bass is like a salsa or a mambo sound in the background.
I think you just described my band. Yeah, I get
and it's chaotic and it's satanic and it's just like evil for evil's sake. To get attention.
The one thing I read, and it's probably from later the quote, but he's basically just anti-God.
Kerry King.
I don't know. I hadn't thought about it in like 15 years. I was a philosophy major. I thought about God, not God, this God, that God. I listened to crazy, messed up music with you, and but I was like, just the way it was. I was like, okay, so he's just tackling everything anti-religion. I think that's the correct way to say it. And I was like, okay, that makes Slayer way smarter.
He has a lyric where he says he has an obsession to treat God like an infection.
I actually respect that a million times more in my old age than I did then, but I think I was afraid of the music. There is a heaviness to the music, like I recognize, particularly Metallica, which is even more melodic, but the Marshall amps they're using, like the sound, the sustain, right? The sound that might become grunge in a lot of ways. I just don't like that tone, I guess.
Well, speaking of grunge, in a lot of ways, there was a precursor to that. So before like the Big Four, that was a great tour back in what was it, 2010, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, Clash of the Titans in 1991 was Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth, and the opening band was Alice in Chains.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Alice in Chains got booed off the stage. People were yelling at them. Lane Staley's flipping off the band. It did not go over well. This was the wrong crowd because literally after Alice in Chains got off the set, Megadeth comes on. And then it's Slayer. And then it's Anthrax. Like, it was not the scene for them. So number 2, Rain and Blood.
Yeah, I know what number 1 is based on its absence in the top 10.
What is it?
It's got to be Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets it is. And it got 10 of the 20 respondents.
Oh my God! Number one?
Yeah.
That's huge.
And that was the thing. My friend
wow.
Adam, he's like, everyone's picking Master of Puppets, right? And I said, pretty much. So yeah, it was Master of Puppets, and then 5 people for Rain and Blood, 2 at Rust in Peace, 1 for Ride the Lightning, 1 for South of Heaven, and some weirdo on the Iron Maiden message board was like Anthrax Persistence of Time.
His first time they heard about Anthrax was on before.
Joe Jackson fan, I guess. And that's the thing. A lot of this was influenced, and when I was talking to my friends, the feedback was, I go back to that, and that's when you get into it. And maybe it's not the best technically, but it's the most visceral, and that's what you go back. And I listened to some of the, like I said, at least what I thought could have been anything in the top 20. I listened to at least once, and ironically, when I came up with the concept of doing this, I knew number 1 was Master of Puppets, and I honestly didn't listen to it the whole time. When I was going through all the lists, I listened to everything multiple times for anything in the top 10. But today, I listened to Master of Puppets for the first time, and you turn it on, you get the acoustic intro to Battery. By the time it kicks in and Hetfield starts singing, you're like, yeah, this is the number 1. And it just goes through. All 8 songs are fantastic. Orion, the instrumental, The Thing That Should Not Be, totally inspired. Between that and Live After Death inspired me to start reading H.P. Lovecraft. Every song is great. Sanitarium sends chills down my spine. I remember hearing Leper Messiah on like college radio in Cincinnati, Ohio when I was out visiting my uncle. Like it's easily one of the best albums ever.
Like Desert Island best album?
We're starting that again, huh?
We're going to start everything again. It's a circle. Everything's a circle. Or a Mobius strip.
I had 8 of the consensus top 10 on my list.
Oh, that's what I want to know. That's huge. You're so good. That's why you're
that's funny. Of everyone's list, all 20 people, a few people had 8 of the top 10. Nobody had all of the top 10. I think a total of 36 different albums got a vote.
47-ish, I think, yeah.
Half of the number 1 votes were for Master of Puppets.
That's huge. Well, what was the second most? Was it only 2 or was it 4?
No, it was 5 votes for Rain and Blood.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's the tape that was on the both sides. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, have we ever done a full Iron Maiden episode?
No.
Because that's what I think I'm missing from this. Like, because if Iron Maiden is an influence for them, and that's your favorite band, and you go to get this list from an Iron Maiden bulletin board, and I have a cool Iron Maiden West Ham soccer jersey, like, I don't know. I think it's time to do an Iron Maiden episode.
Well, I mean, it's been almost 20 episodes since our last True Metal episode, whatever you want to say about Tool. So, sometime in the next 20 episodes, maybe we'll get one together.
Number 50, man. It's a place of honor. Tell me this. Like is Tool not metal?
It's open for debate.
What do you think?
I don't know.
I don't care if it's metal or not. I'm just curious. Like
that's the thing, and maybe that's my response. I don't care.
I don't care, but you don't care because it's Tool. I don't care because it's metal. it's two different. I don't cares.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Anyway, well, thank you all for indulging us on this. I mean, obviously,
Steven,
people love Master of Puppets.
Steve.
Yeah. Well, thank you for indulging me, Keith.
Yes, you're welcome. I had a great time, actually. And I actually understand our early episode now. Actually, I feel that these two episodes go together.
If you haven't already, check out episode 19, Beyond the Big Four. Thanks for listening to the New Dad Rock.
New Dad Rock.
New Dad Rock. Thank you.
Thank you
for listening.